What's happening?
Hey Denise,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Uh, I'm good. I'm good.
All right. So ready to do this?
Ready to do this.
All right. Well, I listed it for 12:05. So
Yep.
let's give people a couple minutes,
Okay.
and then we can get it cracking.
All right.
Hey, so I will share this, and I'll say this when we start. But there's actually a petition to have Dominique Jones arrested and charged.
Oh, good. Good. It
So
should be.
yeah, so hopefully that goes down, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
'Cause, you know, 'cause he is a problem. Mhm. So yeah, another minute and we'll get it cracking.
Okay.
Okay. All right, it's 12:05. We can go ahead and get started. So all right, welcome everybody to another episode of The Bridge. Hard hitting. We don't care. We're doing it raw. No makeup, no no hair.
Or hair doing whatever it's gonna do.
That's right. That's right. Just
Yeah.
bringing it live, direct, and raw. So, how you doing, Denise?
Brother, I am really good. What about yourself? Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday. Yeah. Well, you know me. I'm so cool. I can't stand it. Yeah. I stay cool. Colder than
That's
the
all
ice
right.
cubes in your fridge, baby.
That's all right.
So yeah. So today we're going to talk about. Well, we're going to talk about a number of things. We're going to talk about misandry, the fact that it seems that so many black women have a problem with accountability, particularly when it comes to black men. And in order to discuss those things, we are going to use uh, the case of one Travis Rudolph. Preston James, Sean Berry, how y'all doing? And welcome to the show. Yeah, so we're going to use the Travis Rudolph case. You want to say anything before I try to summarize the piece?
You said it all. We just
Okay.
jump right into it.
Okay, cool. So Travis Rudolph is 27 years old. He's a former NFL player. Uh, he went to Florida State. He was with the New York Giants. Then he was with the Miami Dolphins. 27 years old. He was dating a woman, Dominique Jones, who apparently was married. So they were having an affair, and but it's unclear as to whether she was separated or if his house was just the fun house, the safe house, because she had some things there and apparently had been there for a while. And the two of them got into it, and he told her, "Get the hell out of my house." And apparently there was a scuffle. It got physical, but she did leave. She then went wherever she went, back to the marriage house or wherever. She called her brother, and I'm sure she probably put, as we say, put a two on it, and told him this guy had hurt her, and she wanted to. Sean Berry says she claims to have been legally separated. Yeah, I don't know if that was true or not. Sean, she probably just was cheating. But yeah, she did say that she was legally separated. She also said that she was Travis's girlfriend, which he repeatedly denied during the trial. He was like, "No, we were just messing around. It's not my girlfriend." So she called her brother, and said, he hurt me, whatever, whatever. But the key words, I want you to go over there and shoot shit up. Literally, is what she said. Want you to go over there and shoot shit up. So her dumbass brother gathered up 3 people. So the 4 of them went over to Travis Rudolph's house where there was a physical altercation. Travis, he's a football player, so he's not some, 4'11" punk hiding behind a door, which, you don't mess with short people because they'll give it to you worse than the tall people would. So, but I just wanted to make that clear that he fought back. So there was a physical altercation, and apparently the 4, it wasn't enough that it was 4 people. At least one of them brought a gun. What kind of male bitch are you? There are 4 of you, and one of you has a gun. So shots were fired. Travis also had a gun. And so the yeah, you're right, Sean. Yep. He took his friend midnight. I see now. I didn't know it was midnight. Thank you. So apparently they shot, and then he shot, but I guess he goes to the range because he shot, and one of them ended up dead. So he killed one. The other three little bitches got away, and he got charged. So he got arrested. They charged him. There were several charges. Number 1 was first-degree murder, but I think it was like manslaughter, gun charges. There were a number of charges. This happened in April of 2021. So finally, a few days ago, the jury came back with a verdict, and they found him not guilty on all charges. Just done, done, done. But the thing that is still sticking out, this woman literally was the chain, the first link in the chain of events, but all through court, and now she's claiming to be herself a victim. She tried to lie about everything. She tried to say, "Oh, I never told them to go over to hurt that man." Blah 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 blah. And but they found the texts where she actually did send a text to her brother that's literally said, go shoot some shit up. Sean says they never shot. They threw the gun in trees once the friend was shot and took an hour to get him to the hospital. Now, I think that's unclear, Sean, because it was reported that they did shoot at him, that they were shooting back and forth. I think that's important too. I'm going to find out, because that would be miraculous if no one shot at him. He shot and killed someone and still managed to get off scot-free from everything. And he's black. So that's why I would hesitate to to believe that they didn't shoot at all. But I mean, anything is possible, because once they had the text from her saying, "Go shoot some shit up," I think that was probably the biggest piece for the judge and the jury in being able to say, we're going to let this man go free, because he was at his home minding his business, and 4 people came over. One of them had a gun. And she lied about everything. Sean says she was evil and a liar. Testimony and actions on the stand tells everything about her. Oh, you watched it live on Crime TV. Okay, cool. So then you probably heard during the case that they never shot. So we're going to go with that if you watch the whole case live. So now, what does all of this mean? Well, first, before we go into it, the thing is, and there is a petition. There's a petition now for her to actually. I'm going to pull it up. There's a petition on change.org. It says Dominique Jones, her brother, and his friends should be charged for the murder of the guy who was killed, whose name is Sebastien Jean-Jacques. Sebastien Jean-Jacques is the one who was killed. And they've got 1,278 signatures so far. And so I think The reason why I'm sure they're going to charge her is because when these things happen, someone has to pay. Someone has to, they're not going to let someone off and no one just, everyone just walks away. She's the person, she's the first link in the chain of events. Had it not been for this woman sending the text to send her dumbass brother and her dumbass friends to go commit felonies because I believe that they're going to be charged too. You take a gun to someone's house, you got to pay. So, yeah, so, but were it not for her actually sending them to his house, then the guy, Sebastian Jean Jacques, would not be dead. And she's such a heartless animal. She didn't even care about that guy being killed. So he meant nothing to her. Obviously, her brother meant nothing to her because he could have been uh, killed as well. It's just, it's just psychotic. Now the thing is, we don't know. Hey, Dathan, what's up, brother? We don't know what the status was as far as Dominique's marriage, but we know that, and I agree with you, Sean, cheating is not enough. But she said that she was upset because he cheated. Well, you married, you moron. You're married, but you're mad that your side piece had a side piece. So he had a side piece to the piece. Um, it's just it's crazy. And so, so let's cut to the chase, Denise. And Sean Berry kind of cut there before we did. She said, I'm tired of these emotional females who won't take accountability. Because that's where we're at. And that's why we're doing this show. Because the whole thing is that she caused a man to be killed, caused another man to actually legally have to fight for his life. And her defense was, I was upset. You were upset, so you potentially sent four people to change another person's life. So you were upset, so you put five people's lives at risk. You put five people in jeopardy. And so what this goes to the whole thing of accountability that black men have been talking about with respect to black women. And I'm gonna let you chime in, Denise, because I can go on all day. I've been on it for a minute. I'm gonna let you get let you get some.
Okay, well, you're doing just fine, brother. So,
Thank you, sister.
it's all good. But I want to take a step back. And, as a Black woman, I'm not going to criticize those men who showed up on her behalf because that's a man thing. You can do that. It's not necessarily my place to do that. But the reason that I want to go to that point is because I think it highlights how we do not really talk about in our community how triggered our men are at the idea of someone harming them.
The
And
women we love, yes.
yes. And so when we hear these conversations about Black men not being protectors, it sounds absolutely ridiculous. And unless you're just going to say that whomever it was that she called her brothers and the friends, that they just had nothing else better to do on a Saturday night and they just wanted to get into some mess, which nobody's gonna make me believe that. Now,
Yeah.
was it the smartest thing to do? Obviously not. But just wanting to really highlight that Black men are very triggered at the idea of Black women that they love, care for, are connected to, are being harmed. I mean, and I think I learned this a long time ago, but I think I didn't really understand how deep it goes until I think my oldest son may have been like, I don't know, still in high school, his last year of high school. And one of his best friends, he's known for a very long time, a young lady, this guy was, which, he knew was talking some mess about how much he couldn't stand her. And if he, got a chance to do something, he would just, he would handle her. And I remember my son like hitting the roof. Like, if you put a hand on her, if you even so much, that's the end of our friendship, and I will end you. Like, bruh, you do not put your hands on her. And I'm looking at my son like, where is all of this coming from? And they're still really good friends. I mean, to
Yeah.
this day. But it was just like the idea that he was so triggered. And I had never, my son has a heart of gold. I had never, and to this day, have never seen my son in that space. But it showed me where Black men can go when they are faced with the idea that someone is trying to bring harm to women in their lives that they really care for. So this is what happened in the case of these men coming to Dominique Jones' defense. And so we have to deal with that. But then, in addition to this is what one of our listeners is alluding to. It's just this, the whole thing is an afterthought for her. Only thing
Yes.
she's sitting on the stand like, no, that's not what I meant. No, haven't you been angry before? Like, there is no sense of remorse.
Right.
There is no sense of, well, wait a minute. Um, that wasn't my intention, but I'm so, so sorry that this happened. That's just not where I was trying to, like, we're not getting any of that. And
Right.
for me, that is indicative of what we see often with Black women becoming emotional and then making these decisions that just absolutely ruin people's lives.
That's
Not
right.
just ruin people's lives, but will take someone's life.
That's right.
And then we're sitting up there like, well, but that's not the worst part. The worst part isn't, okay, she didn't hold herself accountable, or she didn't talk about, show any remorse or any regret. The worst part is that you will find, not going to say all, because I know people get, people sometimes don't know when you're making statements if you don't qualify it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm
Yeah.
not talking about all Black women here, but too many of us, right? We default to, well, what did he do to her? Well, he must have done something to anger her.
Right.
Or Black men need to stop playing with Black women's emotions.
Yes.
Are you kidding me? Are
Yeah.
you
I'm hearing that.
kidding me? Like, I don't, what do you remember that time when, I think it was Bow Wow? He was, I don't know who he was dealing with. This was, I think, pre-pandemic. And it was all over social media. Somebody put their hands on him, and whomever he was dealing with. And I remember like looking at social media, and everybody was like, well, what did he do?
Right.
What do you mean, what did he do? She put her hands on him. Like, that doesn't, keep your hands to yourself.
Right.
Like, and we as Black women, we can't look at other Black women and say, okay, well, he must have done something, because the only thing that does is reinforce the lack of accountability, which is,
That's
I think, the biggest reason why we are not showing accountability, that we feel like we can act, straight from these, uncontrollable emotions. And that's crazy. We don't even accept that from children.
that's
Your
right.
child gets out of control, acting on emotion, and you're looking at this kid like sideways, and you're counting backwards from five. Five, four, three, and it's like, you get yourself together or I'm gonna get you together. Like, that is what we don't even accept that lack of accountability and being out of control from children. So why is it that we think it is okay for grown women to be out of control?
Well, there are a couple of things, and the problem, which I know is going to be the case here, is that a lot of women get angry when you say anything about any woman. Black women have fallen into a group think, a group self. They have a group self, which is why, for example, in dating, you can look at a man and say, oh, he's a fat, nasty bastard. I wouldn't date him. And people are like, is he fat? Okay. But conversely, you can't say, oh, I wouldn't date her. She's fat. Oh, you hate black women. Oh my God. How could you? Even skinny women would say that because black women have fallen into a universal self. And so I think that when we get to the point where we're looking at accountability, we have women looking at that woman as themselves. There's a quote, I'm trying to remember it. Older black men look at a young black man and see what the black man could be. They see, that young black man and his potential, but older black women look at the young black women and see themselves. So that universal group self is a problem because, then it's hard to talk. And of course, not all, but then then it's hard to talk as an individual to another individual. And I've been in conversations with goofy women where I express my preference. So I don't like this, I don't like that. And they're like, oh, so you hate black women. Oh, I even had a family member, I should call her name out, on Facebook. I literally forgot that she was a Facebook friend. Like, she never comments. I didn't even know she's still on Facebook till she sent me a message. And she was like, well, all these women, when you say this and you say that, I just want you to know you're talking about me and blah, 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 blah. And all I could think of was, damn, you need to be medicated. Because if I'm talking about women I date and I'm talking about the choices that I make because I'm a free black man, why are you taking that personally? Why do you think that has any damn thing to do with you when you're my family? But it's that universal self that makes it difficult for us to have real conversations. And so accountability can't come in because when we lost the lack of accountability, the late 70s, early 80s, it never came back. And so if there's no accountability for one, because there's a universal self, there's no accountability for all. And that's really, and so some of the comments, like you were saying, some of the some of the comments that were being made were, like you said, Denise, what did he do to her? He must have made her mad. Oh, you can't get a black woman emotional. You can't do this. You can't do that. It's a horrible situation. Preston James said no one should go after someone without knowing the whole situation anyway. And I mean, black man have all known a situation where a woman has gotten mad or even triggered the situation and then called family or friends, gotten them all hyped up. Somebody got hurt, and now no one goes back to help. Because guess what? She ends up back with the guy in most cases. So I say this to say this mess has to stop. Your cousin Terrence, my former relative, used to, man, wind me up and point me at people to go smash and, mayhem and destruction. And it took me a long time until I realized, man, this isn't good. Not just because I shouldn't be out here going crazy, but also because she didn't give a hot shit what happened to me. She wanted someone hurt didn't care who hurt them. But since I was in the hurting business for a long time, she wanted me to hurt and didn't care. Wanted me crossing state lines and committing all kinds of crazy crimes. And at the end of the day, no accountability. And we've got to get to a point, which is why I wanted to have this kind of conversation. When you brought it up, Denise, it was real sexy to me because we got to start having these conversations. Because here's where we are: Black women have followed, in general, have followed feminist propaganda for at least 40 years. Feminism is not Black feminism; it is feminism, and it is informed by white supremacy. And what does that mean? That means that the goal is appeasing white supremacy. That also means that the propaganda, the messages that come from feminism have not a damn thing to do with Black women, except that some pieces of that propaganda is designed specifically to do damage. And it does. It's been doing damage since Black women decided we're independent women. We don't need a man. We can do everything on our own. All these things were destructive, and Black men knew it when we heard it, but we let them rock with it. We didn't think it was harmful until after 2000, when that group of women, they started turning 40, started turning 50. It's difficult now to date because you've changed. You said all this weird, goofy shit, but men didn't change in terms of what they desired. So now, as Brother Malcolm said, the chickens have come home to roost. And what did that mean? That means that now there are more Black women over 40 than ever before who are unmarried and who have no children. One would think that they would, at least in twos and threes, fours and fives, let's have conventions and do something to change it. Because now, not only are we unmarried, but these men are starting to say, I don't want to marry you. But instead, and here's the accountability piece or lack thereof, instead, so many Black women started doubling down. And I remember in the early 2000s when I was on a lecture circuit, when you ask a Black woman why she's single, you would get what I called the triumvirate of evil. You'd get three reasons why they were single. It was all men. It was because Black men were down low, because they were in prison, and because they were with white women. Lack of accountability has nothing to do with the fact that we can go on a date with a woman and she's a piece of shit. It was all because we were somehow defective. And in my lectures, I would break it down as far as homosexuality, the down low, like less than 15% of the population is homosexual. Stop trying to put all of them in the Black community. With white women, we've never seen, well, I won't say never. I could, because since the late 90s, when I first started looking at who we are, what we do, what we are historically, since the late 90s, we have never had more than 200,000 interracial marriages composed of a Black man and a white woman. Now that's deep. Let me tell you why that's deep. Because if we say that we've got 44 million Black people, about 21 million are male, 23 million female, in order for there to be some epidemic of Black men marrying white women, you'd have to at least have 10%, which would be 2 million. But you have 10% of that 10%, 200,000. Come on, stop the bullshit. And we know that over 94% of Black men who are married to Black women. But we still have to hear the reason why these women can't get married is because we're with white women. Stop the bullshit. That third one, prison. Now, I know people talk a lot about the prison industrial complex, and we should. It's a problem. We talk about it in reference to other countries, even some third world countries. But here's something that people don't want to deal with. They're not going to like it. They're going to respond emotionally. It's really not that bad. And what I mean by that is that in order for there to be a huge problem with prison that is unmanageable, we've got 300 million people in the country. We'd have to have at least 30 million, 10%. I'm just doing percentages, people. We'd have to have 10%. We'd have to have 30 million. The prison population usually ranges from 2 to 2.5 million nationally. Now, it's too many. And if you're one of that 2.1 to 2.5, you damn sure think it's a problem. But let me break it down further and bring it to the micro when it comes to African American men. Since Black women want to say that the one of the three big reasons why they can't get married is because so many Black men are in prison. If there are 21 million Black men in America, in order for prison to really be a problem in taking people away out of 21 million, there'd have to be 2.1 million. 10%. There's not. It literally fluctuates between 800 to 900,000. Okay? Less than 5%. It's a lot. There's a lot of them who shouldn't be there. It's crazy. People are making money. The prison industrial complex, blah, 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 blah. But it is not a huge reason why Black women. So, yeah, prison is bullshit. The down low is bullshit. And married to white women, all bullshit. That's the lack of accountability that Black men keep talking about, which that discussion is now going sideways. It's now going sideways because just as we know that some of these women are emotionally destroyed and therefore mentally a little off kilter, we're seeing some of that happen with some of these bitches who have penises. And I ain't talking about the trans dudes. I'm talking about some of these men who are now going off the rails because they're raging now. It's been too much bullshit from the other side. The pushback is psychotic. They're saying shit like, don't date single mothers. I mean, they're saying some really horrible shit, which you can match it with horrible shit from the other side, right? So the accountability piece is huge. It's huge, and it's so big that now a lot of Black women are starting to see it. Yeah, and what do they call it, Denise? When you see a Black woman's bullshit and you call it out, what do they call you?
They call me a pick
Oh,
me.
pick me.
Yeah, which I let me tell you why I have a problem with that terminology.
Lay it
It's not
out.
even it's not even the terminology itself, right? It's the fact that you came up with anything to call me because you ain't, excuse my language, you ain't saying shit to white women. You
At
ain't
all.
at all. You just taking what they tell you to do. But for those of us who love Black people, including Black women, I love my sisters, right? But you have a name for me, and that's cool. But that's really what I dislike about it is you don't have shit for white women who are like literally dog walking you, down a road that is really destroying our community and our families.
Absolutely.
But sort of getting back to the point of accountability, sometimes when we're looking at this, and I don't know, as a collective, I mean, I haven't really seen us examine it as a collective. And I'm not even sure if we understand how embedded the lack of accountability is, and how much there is this need for Black women um, to have Black men come to our rescue, which I'm really still trying to understand that piece. I mean, sort of it's connected to the accountability, but really just kind of taking it and examining it, by itself. And I'll give you a perfect example. Do you remember uh, when Trump was in office and April Ryan and a couple other sisters were they at the press club?
Yes.
And I think Trump basically ignored them.
Mm-hmm.
So there was this whole conversation, a national conversation about Black men protecting Black women. Why? Because you went to the press club and this, Trump does not acknowledge you or any. And I remember writing a piece about it. Now I'm old, so I don't remember all the details. But let me tell you what I do specifically remember. There were no brothers there.
At all.
There were no brothers there. So you didn't look to your colleagues. I'm not even going to say white men. You did not look to your colleagues that were present to say, hey, listen,
Why didn't you protect us?
right. We're here, we're legitimate press. Why are we not being acknowledged? You didn't look to your colleagues.
Yes.
You looked to people that were not even there.
That weren't there.
That were not even there. And then there was this whole uproar. There was a piece in the Washington Post based on this, that Black men do not protect Black women. And it was just the most ridiculous thing to me. And so they're talking to, I think they had the piece had quoted Kimberly Crenshaw. There was one, I can't even remember which sister from at that time, when we still didn't quite understand that the Black Lives Matter was some BS. But she was one of the ones that, I can't remember which one was quoted. But it's like, this was the conversation in the Washington Post. It was a full-blown article about Black men.
Right. And
Not,
we can't,
go ahead.
Well, and we can't necessarily chastise the Washington Post, the New York Times. We can't chastise the media that pursue these hit pieces too much, because they're simply following the propaganda. And they're following it because they have enough Black women who will allow them to follow the propaganda.
And I'm going to tell you, that's an important point to make.
Yes.
Because we need to understand, and particularly because the piece was written by a Black journalist, a Black man journalist, whom I had over the years really respected. But what we have learned about our media, and this country's media, and let me be more accurate about this country's media, but also this country's academic institutions, right? When you're Black, you want a space, you want a place in that space.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be writing, you're going to be saying, you're going to be repeating, teaching, pushing out information that is not pro-Black.
That's right.
It's going to be something that follows the narrative of, what's considered the what's the word, the ethnological narrative that white supremacy has said about Black men, which is that they're monsters, they're inherently violent, they're rapists, and this is why we have to control them.
That's right.
And so,
or as that bitch, that filthy fucking bitch, Hillary Clinton. I hate her. She's a demon. That's why I'm using such soft, flowery language. She literally,
very flowery.
Right. She literally called us super predators
Super
and
predators
said they must be made to
to
come
come
to
to
heel.
heal.
Like, bitch, why would I vote for your ass?
Right,
You hate me, demon, and I hate you back.
right. And so yeah, and so these are the kinds of things that keep coming up. This narrative of black men not protecting black women, and what black women are looking to black men to prove, and it's not even so much to prove black men's worth, because it doesn't seem to me that that's really it. It's
That's not
really, it feels like it's to prove our worth.
that. No, it
Like,
doesn't. It shouldn't just feel like it. It should look like it because that's what it is.
like
Black men are just tools.
you don't care about the black man. Like,
Right.
it's, I want to feel like I have value, and so I don't feel like I have value until some black man has, put his life on the line for me, until he has come and told the world,
Right.
"Hey, you don't mess with this black woman because," or until he has turned his wallet inside out,
And
and
put his life on the line.
all of
And he,
these things.
yeah, and here's for me anecdotal evidence because a lot of times when I hear women talking about wanting to be protected, I hear a lot of sisters. Well, some of them not even gonna call them sisters. I hear a lot of women creating drama to test a man. And they think it's funny. I've seen videos on social media. I've heard conversations where they talk about how, oh, I told him so and so was coming to get me. Who should have saw how mad he was? Why are you playing? Why are you playing with this dude? Then if he flips out and he will, like Sean Berry, look, Sean Berry said, look what too many black women want protected. The behavior they want protected is killing our men, young and old. And that's right, because you get upset. And because you're upset, the first, like with this former family member who used to wind me up and aim me at people, she got into a bad situation. And the first thing the family told her, don't call Daryl. What's the first thing she did? Called me, lied. Oh, nobody's doing anything. They said I deserved it, which was the biggest lie. So I'm calling dudes in the family, you a punk, woo, woo, woo. You know what I mean? And my older brother was like, man, sit your ass down somewhere. She lied to you. People were trying to deal with it, but there were circumstances. But the point is, they don't care what happens to the man. It is about them. It is about how they feel, what is going to be, it's just like dating a woman who wants you to take her on a nice trip or wants you to take her to a nice dinner. Half the time, because they want it on the first or second date, half the time it's not even about whether or not you're doing this for her. It is about her taking a picture to stunt on her girls. Look at what I got him to do. Yeah, he did. It's all about, and so we have to talk about, if we're going to talk about a lack of accountability, we have to talk about narcissism. We have to talk about,
You went there.
I had to. We have to talk about the raging narcissism that
So
is running through the group that we call Black women.
so
Go ahead.
let me just touch on that for just a second. Um, I saw a video yesterday, and it so disturbed me. It actually broke my heart. And you know how you have street reporters, which I love street reporters out here, just, you know, putting mics in front of black people and just, hey, what's going on? What you got to say? What's happening in your life? Share with us, right? I love street reporters. So, reporter walks up to this couple and say, hey, how'd you meet and everything? So the brother, they had been married for, I don't know, like 18, 19 years, something like that. And he asked them how they met. He said how they met, cute little story in the club, whatever. And then they ended up being married. So the reporter asked the brother, well, tell me, What's what is your favorite thing about your wife? Oh my goodness. This brother went in. Oh, my wife is so intelligent. She's so smart. She's a provider. Let me tell you what that means. She has her thing going on, and she has supported me when I had my thing going on, and we have built each other, and we have, and then she's wonderful with our children and managing our home. Like, she's everything that I could have ever wished for. These are his words. And I'm like, dang, I want somebody to describe me like that one day when I grow up.
Indeed. Indeed. Yeah.
So then the reporter, because what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So you turn around and say, okay, well, tell me, what's your favorite thing about your husband?
Right.
She was like, oh, my favorite thing about him is that he spoils me.
Indeed.
So
Indeed.
I'm hitting like the rewind button because I'm like, what she say? No, she said something else. I missed it. Let me go back.
Right.
Press play. And that's what she said. And she said, sometimes he gives me a hard time, but usually I get my way.
And that's what she loves about him.
And
Yeah.
that's what she loves about him. That's what she said was her favorite thing about this man who
He's
has,
doing everything.
I mean,
Loves her dirty drawers.
just like it was oozing out of him. Like, like he didn't have to say, well, there's so many things I really love about my wife. Let me think about it. No, he was just like, it was pouring out of him. And
Yeah.
that's all that she could come up with. Like,
Yeah.
even if
Because,
she had said, okay, for real, I ain't gonna lie, I do love that. Because, but seriously, folks, okay, I'm just kidding. I ain't gonna lie,
right.
I do love that. But let me tell you what I really love about him. Because this black
Right.
man, she didn't even come back around to that.
Well,
And I
see, and
was like, and that's like the narcissism. Like
yeah.
his value for her, right, is highlighted in how you make me feel. You make me feel
Period.
like, this is what I want, and so this is what and you give it to me, and okay.
Yeah. Well, so I'm going to go back to something you said over a year ago. You crystallized something for me when you said that for many black women, they have thingamatized black men. And that's what we're dealing with. The narcissism has reduced us to tools, to things. We're not full people. I mean, some of the egregiously hateful shit that I have heard from black women, I mean, I don't really get that shocked anymore because it's really not a new basement, although sometimes I freak out because they go lower. But like saying shit like, oh, black men used to marry us and then die and leave us with money. Yeah, like
And
they
then
need to
get
start.
mad and say, and they don't even do that anymore. I've seen that.
Right,
I've seen that on
right,
social media.
right. That shows you like how some of these chicks view us. And so it becomes psychotic to me when I hear, because I know I'm going to hear it based on this, when I hear black women try to say, oh, well, you hate black women. No, I was raised around some of the most just sweet, beautiful, like you kiss a black woman on the cheek, you fuck around and get diabetes, right? Just and not just in my
That's real.
family,
That's
yeah,
real.
and not just in my family, but just the community, like black female teachers, just sweet, just the lady down the street, my homeboy's mama. You know what I mean? Just sweet. And I always explain that so that I can explain why I have such a visceral reaction to bitches. Because I didn't even know that a black woman could be a bitch till I was well into my 20s. And then I was like, what the hell is that? Right?
It's like a different species.
I've never seen that before.
No,
Should
it's
I
really.
shoot it?
No, it's like a different species
It's
because
a different species. Because
that's
even
you're right.
Yeah,
that's not what we have, traditionally and historically been. And
Ben, right.
I think I told you one of my favorite stories about my grandmother is her telling me how my grandfather, who got rejected for a Pullman Porter position because he was too short, how she just kissed him on the cheek and told him just wait a week. And she sent him back the next week. He goes and he gets the job. And I'm like, okay, so what happened? Different person, and she's like, no, I just stuffed his shoes with newspaper. And just like,
I knew it was gonna be something like
you
that.
know
But,
what I'm
but she
saying? And
also stuffed his heart with confidence and love.
yes, yes. Like, it's okay. It's gonna be all right. Just wait a week. Go
Yeah,
back, because they ain't gonna recognize you in a week because they all look the same. We do.
that's
We all
right.
look the same. We're so
That's right.
nondescript.
Yeah,
And it's gonna be okay. And
yes.
so we are. We have been so traditionally just the kindest. And this is why worldwide, globally, like everybody has wanted to mimic black women, everybody. And so I'm
Everybody.
trying to figure out, if you are the mold. First of all, we are the mold. So if
Absolutely.
we are the mold, everybody recognizes that we are the mold, and yet we are consistently moving away from who we are. Like, that just, it doesn't make a lot of sense. It
Only one
doesn't.
thing can explain that: propaganda, which
Propaganda.
Hitler's minister of propaganda laid it out. He talked about how propaganda works, and we're seeing it play out in real time now. You take the woman who is the most beautiful creature on earth, who is, as you say, the mold. They want your ass, your lips, your skin color. They want your walk. They want everything. You take that woman and you use propaganda to teach her to hate herself, to where now you have women who, my God, like Nicki Minaj, that bonehead, beautiful sister. My God, she was radiant, beautiful, sexy. Lil Kim, radiant, beautiful, sexy, and they just destroyed themselves. So Nicki Minaj's face is still pretty, but that cartoon ass and tits, it's like, what are you doing? And Lil Kim, I don't even know where she is anymore. This Chinese lady keeps getting on the stage singing her songs. Uh, uh,
But you
uh,
know what? You Let me just say, jump in here really quick. You know that quote that black women love to take from Malcolm X, brother Malcolm, where we say that, what is it, that where he says black women are the least respected,
the most
yada yada,
unprotected,
the most unprotected. And we keep taking that quote out, first of all, out of context, but
way
we
out.
also, way out of context, but we also do not take the rest of the quote, which is, and you and I have talked about this, who taught you to hate yourself?
And there's another piece from the same era. I think it was Huey P. Newton, who basically said, "You can't protect what you can't control," and and a lot of sisters don't understand that. You want me to protect you, but I'm trying to deal with the man and trying to calm him down so everything is okay, but you still on 10 and stir it right back up. Well, if I can't, and more important, and so we hear black women, you date younger women because you want to control them. No, I'm looking for a woman who can control herself. And if you want me to protect you, shut the fuck up, calm down.
Well,
And here's the other piece too. I think black men do still know how, because of how many are in jail, in the system, in the cemetery, right, behind black women. In addition, black women need to start having the conversation with us about how they can protect us, especially since they got black male children. You
well, we
can't keep sending us out there.
well we there was a time, again, traditionally, when we did that. It was like, no, that's okay, because the chances are they're going to try to lynch both of us, but they will for damn sure lynch you, you
That's
know.
right. That's right.
So we used to do that, but when we look at this idea of accountability and how it is promoted through, or the lack of accountability is promoted through propaganda, we as Black women see messages all the time that basically say we can do whatever it is that we want to do without consequence. I mean, you see things, and and people can say, oh, it's just social media. No, 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 it's not just social media. Social media is capturing things that have been happening in our communities, in our homes for decades now. It's just that we're now seeing more of it because everybody has access. And, access is just that, access, and it makes it everything more visible.
That's right.
And so we can readily point to this and talk about it, and then turn around, point to this, and point around, turn around and point to that. And if you pull that stuff off and you create a sample, I mean, that would be, in research, it would make a legitimate sample. So it's not just social media. But what we're seeing, like I said, is that women popping up on social media, saying whatever they want to say, doing whatever they want. So I saw a video of a woman, and she has her, young son, and she's like twerking in front of him, and she's twerking on him. And so then, people, mostly Black men, are like, you should be arrested. What are you doing? That's sexual molestation. What are you doing to this? And her only response was, I can do what I want. This is my son. And, I think at one point she had even posted something about, DCPS has already been here because people have been calling and nothing. They didn't find anything. So whatever. Are
Mm-hmm.
you joking?
No
Like, are you serious?
accountability.
No, like I can just
It's
do
no
what I
big
want to
deal.
do. You know, I can do that without recourse. I can do, not only can I do what I want to do, right? But I can do it and expect that no one should be able to tell me that I can't do it, or that there should be an expectation of consequences. Like, that's crazy to me. And so
Well, yeah,
then
yeah,
so we just see, it's having such, this lack of accountability is having such a horrible impact, in my opinion. And if we look at some data points, we can see where all of this is intersecting. But it's having a horrible impact on not only this manufactured gender war, because I think it is another piece,
completely
right? It's another marker that Black men and Black women have to figure out. It's like we didn't already have enough. We got to deal with this, we got to deal with that. Oh yeah, add the lack of accountability. Like, it's just one other thing that we have to figure out how to reconcile. But
well,
in addition, it's harmful, in terms of what we are putting forth with our children.
yes,
Because then, your mama ain't got no accountability. Well, why would your children
that's
go
right.
out in the world and think that they should be held accountable? Like,
Yeah, except that now your daughter with no accountability is going to be treated poorly and tossed around. Your son with no accountability is probably going to catch a bullet from the streets or the police. They're both the same. And I think we have to start having these conversations because winter is coming. Winter is coming. And I say it all the time. My favorite phrase, you hear it all the time, Denise, it's almost over. It's almost over. And what I mean by that is that everything is coming to a head. Everything is. For decades, Black men said nothing to Black women. Black women could do what they wanted. And as soon as Black men said, you know what, this has gone too far, and tried to take the community back and take charge, while we hear Black women saying, oh, y'all don't lead anymore. Well, who we going to lead? You can't lead somebody who's going in the other direction when you start to lead. What we're starting to see now is that black men are starting to say, okay, leave them out there. Leave them out there. Even to the point where they're saying, don't be a stepfather. Basically, you have a group of black men who are saying, abandon them, to hell with them all. That's a problem. That's a problem because that includes not only the women, but their children. And
Children.
I'm a stepson. So the concept of advocating for men to not be stepfathers, to not be willing to take a look at a woman with a child or two and consider getting involved, we're talking about the further erosion of our community. And when you have a people, so let me just make a comparison. In the 60s, black men were on the front line. They were fighting, they were doing their thing. Black women, some black women were right there with them on the goddamn front line. So let's not pretend that it was just a male thing. But black women were organizing, they were supporting the whole shot. And black women in America were recognized the world over as not the black community, but America's moral compass. I even heard an old news tape where a white reporter was referring to black women as America's moral compass. We have gone from that to just shit, and defending shit behavior. When I posted the video yesterday or today, where it was some little babies like 7, 8 years old, and they dancing at the birthday party and popping the booty and doing all that. And the comments in the original video were scary. Oh, they're just having fun. If you say that it's a problem, it's because you're sexualizing them. They're just, and I'm like, man. And this is why, when you see that kind of behavior, this is why a lot of men are like, I ain't gonna be her stepdaddy, because if I'm her stepdaddy, her other mama is gonna say I did something. Now I'm in jail, and they're taking everything I got. We have to understand winter is coming. And what that means is that we are reaching the tipping point. If we haven't already reached it, the tipping point is when men go from just a benign ignoring of the problem to now pointing at the problem and saying, fuck that. Don't touch that. Part of it is the don't be a stepfather. Part of it is the passport bro movement, which black women are trying to attack. You can do what you want, but you can't stop it. Part of it, and I'm part of this too, is a movement of brothers who say now, I'm not going to date women over 40. I'm going to specifically look for women under 40. And of course, the backlash is, oh, you just want someone you can control. No, I want someone who can control themselves. Um, because there are so many problems that have been collected along the way by the average, not all, by the average black woman who is out there yelling and going crazy. Man, I don't want that. I want peace. And so the winter is coming. That is in reference to everything good is being taken away from a lot of black women who previously could have been protected and loved and, just, yeah, could have had everything that they wanted. But when you are not asking for what you want and saying what you have to offer in return, instead, you are demanding what you want and telling men to go to hell for asking what you have to offer. I am the table. Go to hell. Like, that's why winter is coming. It's getting cold. It also includes men not wanting to protect any black woman. And I'm going to be honest. I used to keep my cape rolled up in my back pocket. I mean, if a black woman's in distress, I am not slow. It's hip, 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 and away I go. And I remember my best friend and I, hell, we jumped out the car a couple of times, and we didn't know what the hell was going on. We just see some dude yelling at a black woman. We're like, man, you better get your ass out of her face. I was at TGI Fridays. I think I was maybe 26, 27. I'm with my girlfriend. I'm looking at her, and she just starts crying. and she's pointing behind me, and I look, and this dude is choking his girl, smacking her. So I go, and I'm like, dude, you fucking hands off her. So I'm tussling with him, with me and him getting into it. I see security guard coming. I'm like, okay, cool, because dude was bigger than me. So I, but I was handling him right. She jumped on my back. She jumped. He's smacking her and choking her. I'm defending her. She jumped on my back. So we're at the point now where dudes aren't pulling the cape out. Why? Because those scenarios can happen. The other scenario, which is huge, is that a lot of these sisters are starting the goddamn fight. If you are because we just didn't have all of these thug life women in our community 25 years ago, right? Now there's so many thugs. I mean, I drive down the street. These women have road rage, little bitty, tiny, pretty little things yelling out the window. Nigga, I'll kick your ass. I'll pull you out the car. I'll shoot the car up. And I'm like, baby, I'll tickle you. Get your ass out of here. This is what's happening. I'm not gonna protect her. I'm not. Because at some point, we've gotten to the point where women have become so many women have become so masculine. And I said it on my post last week. Like, no, hold your own nuts, bro. Dathan says, I know people are not going to like this. Our women are not collectively sane enough, to lead anything. I will likely never vote for another woman, as some of they're too emotional and illogical. I think that you do have some who could actually serve. In general, I agree with you, Dathan. I wouldn't want Camel Toe to lead me in a prayer.
But
I could,
yeah, yeah. But let me address that, because I think that um, it's not a matter of particularly when we're looking at women in leadership, right? And we have to be real specific, because he mentioned, Dathan, what's up? Mentioned about voting for someone. I don't think it's a matter of them being too emotional to lead, right? I think that you have a lot of women, and I think this is also true for brothers. When you are on that Democratic ticket or that Democratic teat, right? You aren't there to serve us, right? Your job is not to serve the Black community.
that's right.
And so I'm not looking to vote for anybody, quite honestly. I mean, we looking, look at what's happening in Chicago, and with the election of our newest mayor. I mean, one of the before he even got elected, people that for the most part, I would say that folks trusted, Black folks in the city trusted, meaning, other Black aldermen, our congressmen. Who did they endorse? They endorsed somebody whose idea of making our streets and communities safer was by strengthening the relationship with the Chicago police. Are you kidding me? All of the research says that more policing does in no way make your community safer. So anytime we're looking at Black folks in these positions, whether it is, like I said, Black women or Black men, I think we need to be looking at them sideways anyway, because that's not what they're there for. Now, what I will say also, though, about Black women specifically in these positions is that what I do worry about is the conversation or the narrative that takes place beyond when you have Black men in office. And that conversation ultimately is them sort of being a poster child for, Black girl magic, and to the detriment.
Think we lost you. the
Oh,
main.
okay. When did?
So,
Oh gosh. Okay. Yeah. So I
yeah,
was saying. Yeah, I was saying. So one of the things that bothers me about black women in those positions more so than black men is that the conversation so often turns to this black girl magic, to the detriment of black men and what they're able to contribute. So it
that's right.
gets, yeah. So we have to watch out for that, in
Well,
public service.
yeah, no, absolutely. And the emotionalism that I was speaking of is, I'll give you an example. When Kamala was running for president, she was, making the rounds, and she went on the Breakfast Club, and they asked her, well, you're saying you're a black candidate and you ski weed and you're a bison and blah, blah, blah. What are you going to do for black people? And the wild emotional response let me know I didn't want her to be the head of the PTA. She mustered up all the black woman, everything. I'm not going to do anything specifically for black people. And I'm
Right.
like, if you're that emotional about following your master's edict, then that means because she couldn't collect herself well enough to just give us a PC. We know you're a piece of shit. We know you're not for us or with us, but at least give us a clean enough answer that we can still say, well, she's a politician. She's playing politics. But I was like, this chick is out of control because that was an over the top emotional response, like with Hillary calling us super predators who must be brought to heel. They can't contain it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
hide that, tamp that down a little bit.
Yeah, no, I saw that interview, and it's funny because I actually didn't read it as her being emotional. I read it as her being very, very clear about what her mandate is as a, and I've written about this, and that is that whole dynamic between, particularly for black women in leadership positions, that whole dynamic with them and white men. Like, I think it is the absolute worst thing that we can do as a part of public service is to be, play second fiddle to a white man. I think if there's a white man in office, then let him look for a white woman, or let him look for a black man, or somebody else, anybody but a black woman, because I think that it, in and of itself, it represents something that, to me, is reminiscent of, chattel slavery. I
Yes,
think it is. I think that is the image that they want to, the powers that be, our institutions,
absolutely.
want to put forth, and it and what ends up happening is that black women are now in this position where their mandate is coming from white men, and so who are we then serving? Certainly not us, certainly not black men. So I actually didn't read it and as emotional. I read it for exactly what
Well,
she
no, and
yeah,
I agree. I agree
yeah.
that with your position, but she was overly emotional. I mean, when I looked at her and I looked at that, I was like, this lady is crazy. I mean, and we saw it with Maxine Waters, whom I used to love. She got overly emotional when Barack was running before we knew that he was a hoax. Black people loved him. Black people wanted Barack, 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 Barack. And she made it clear. She's like, well, I know that my constituency wants me to support Barack Obama, but Hillary's my friend. I'm going to support my friend. And I looked at her and I was like, well, then quit your fucking job because your boss, which is your electorate, gave you a mandate. And you basically said with emotion. So that's that's what I'm dealing with. Now I'm hoping, Karen Bass, the mayor of LA, does something different. We were betrayed by Harold Washington's lookalike, that little tiny man that just got an office in Chicago. I saw your face. little Lightfoot, that little dude, little Lightfoot. Look what he had Harold Washington's hairstyle. But we thought, that dude was gonna do something, and yeah, just came with bullshit. But again, to be fair, now that I think about it, that's pretty much black politicians in general. I mean, because on the flip side, Tim Scott, the Republican, I think he'll just pull his pants down and service everybody in the room if he thinks that he's gonna get a cookie. So, and some of the shit that he says, he's an emotional little thing. So, but again, going back to accountability, I think that it's a problem that some black women are still refusing to admit what they did to black men during that last election, which was you abandoned us, then you turned around and pointed the finger at us so that Massa would give you another cookie. Because Joe Biden's old decrepit ass literally said, black women, you helped me win and I owe you. And I was waiting for black women to say, yeah, black men too. 93% of black women gave you the vote. Well, hell, 85% of black men gave you their vote. That was not some lightweight thing, because the only other group that came close to that was like 62%. We were at 85%, and you heard, like, what's that filthy? I'm trying to stop calling these bitches, but Tiffany Cross, she basically was chastising black men. She's like, why don't they just listen to the smart black women? She said, I'm tired of these Kevin Samuels following, Tariq Nasheed quoting black men, do blah, 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 blah. There was this whole environment of black men, shut up. Nobody asks you anything. You just follow us and shut up. And what's that bald head monkey, Simone Sanders?
So yeah, so that's part of that's part of the propaganda. Because I
Yeah,
wrote about that piece.
but here's where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
So where I'm going with this is that black women aren't willing to admit now that it was a mistake to allow the Democratic Party to use them to take a shit on black men,
Well,
because that's
yeah,
what occurred.
yeah. Well, but here's the thing. The propaganda is so pervasive, right? Everywhere you go, when you said, I'll give you a cookie if you do this, I'll give you a cookie. Well, the truth of the matter is that they are giving out a lot of cookies
Mm-hmm.
to black women. They are giving everywhere you turn.
Yeah.
They are we can even talk about this whole movie with, the new Little Mermaid, Ariel, and everything. And I'm not taking my daughter to see it, but and she asked me why I'm not taking her to see it, and I said because Ariel doesn't have a black prince. As
Mm-hmm.
simple as that. Ariel doesn't have a black prince, but on social media you have these people talking about how important it was. I have seen grown women talk about how moving it was and how it healed their inner child to be able to see a representation of themselves. You
That's
know
all.
what? I'm not even mad at you about that.
I
But
am.
but when did you but because I think we've talked about this. I didn't see a Disney movie until I was grown. And I wanted to see Dumbo so badly. And I remember going to not I mean I remember having a video and I was like, oh my God, this racist shit. Like what the hell? And so that ended my relationship with Disney. But but it as children, like we couldn't even see the movies because they just didn't come to our area. So I imagine that kids that actually could go
Right.
see movies, right, and then they see all these white people, and then I guess that could be like confusing. But so if your inner child as a black woman is being healed by seeing an Ariel, okay, I'm not going to fault you for that. But what I am going to
I
ask you is, how is it that you are okay with seeing your image, but you don't ask, well, what about little black boys? Like, why can't you take, like, and that's really what we are talking about with accountability, right? Why is it that we are above course correction, right? You
Right.
want the representation, but why is it, so when you say to a black woman, but okay, you wanted that, you got that, but you couldn't think it through to say, oh yeah, there's little black boys who probably would like to see themselves too, because we're dragging them to these movies, and we don't even consider the value for them. We don't even consider that they may have feelings, like they don't matter. And so, this whole idea of accountability for me is black women have got to stop doing what we want to do based on what it is that we think we want, what it is that we think that we need, because, and etc., 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 because we're doing these things without consideration the harm or damage that
Yes.
it is doing to black men, black children, and our collective, in general. Because if these, you know, if these were just things that had no consequence, we wouldn't even be having these conversations,
That's
right?
right.
But
That's
the
right.
things that we are doing, we're going to graduations,
That's right.
dressed like
Half
we're,
naked.
you know, we're the child walks across the stage and we jump in the aisle and we're twerking. um we are constantly telling black men, be quiet, as you said, with all of these black journalists, black female journalists. Oh, nobody asked you, just do what we say. Like, in
Follow
terms
up.
of, like, as if black men um have no political understanding, no political savvy, which historically, if you understand anything about where we are, how politics developed for us, black men were first in the political process.
That's right.
So let's be real clear about that. Black men don't need black women to tell them how to vote, when to vote, if they should
How to
vote. They don't
understand the process.
they don't need black women to tell them that. They
Yeah.
understand that. They've understood that, right? For a very long time. So at this point, almost 2 centuries.
Yeah.
So
Well, so let's do a couple of things because I want to wrap this up.
yeah.
So let's do a couple of things. Let's kind of summarize in our
Mhm.
closing thoughts, and then the second thing is we'll probably revisit this again because there's so much that needs to be covered, and I'm sure that a lot of people in their pushback are going to bring up other points that need to be dealt with. But let's have your closing thoughts,
You
Denise.
know, yeah, my closing thoughts are real simple. And that is, sisters, ain't nobody asking us to be perfect, right? Nobody's asking us to be perfect. I think what is has consistently been asked of us, which should be consistently asked of anyone, is that when we are out here in the world, moving, shaking, conducting ourselves, living our best lives, however we want to describe it, that when we are doing something that has a detrimental effect on our collective, and particularly Black men and Black children, that we need to pause, because somebody's going to pause us. That's for sure. It's not like we're out here doing these things and nobody is saying anything. Like, that would be a totally different story, because if you don't know, you don't know. But if somebody tells you, that's saying, when you know better, you do better.
Yes.
People are telling us, hey sister, that's not how you wanted to rock and roll with that. Hey sister, you really needed to rethink that. Maybe you needed to do something differently. And this is where the lack of accountability comes in. We don't listen. we
Right.
don't we don't stop and say, okay, well, tell me more, or okay, help me understand, or okay, I'm sorry, I didn't even think about it that way. We don't do those things.
That's
And
right.
so that is really what we are talking about when we say lack of accountability, is that we double down. We keep pushing forward. I can do what I want to do. I'm
Right.
not worried about you. That's you. I'm only worried about me.
Yeah,
And as a collective, we just can't afford to operate in that fashion.
that's right. Well, um, many people have been watching, even across the world. So black women can get upset with me for saying the things I say because I'm a man. But people know the black woman's national anthem is "Who Gonna Check Me, Boo?" Because the answer is nobody. And the winter is coming piece is because a lot of black men are getting to the point where they don't care anymore. They don't want to check you. They don't want to be with you. And so, what is that going to do? That is going to leave a lot of women and children unprotected. Black women are concerned about being unprotected. Quite frankly, a lot of black women are unprotecting themselves because they're placing themselves in position where they don't have men who love them, who care for them enough to risk it all. We are all in trouble. And the only way to get out of it is with each other. And so if black women can't get to the point where they can accept some criticism from black men, which is coming from love, then there are going to be fewer of us who even look. I mean, when you get to the point where black women now, I don't know how we got here, but a lot of them just don't even speak to us, won't say hello, won't look at us, but they want to be protected. It's just not going to happen. There are consequences. A lot of black women run away from accountability, but life is going to give you accountability whether you want it or not. We learn in physics that all systems are self correcting. And we as human beings, we're self correcting. And the self correction is going to be harsh. There's our community, black people, we are in trouble. There are some things coming down the pike that your big uncle Joe Biden is not going to protect you from because he's using you and he's going to put you on the front line. Things are going to get ugly, things are going to get harsh, and you're going to have no one to protect you. And you have to think about that when you're telling black women, oh, when you're telling black men, oh, you can't tell me what to do. Oh, I'm not going to do this. I just want you to provide and protect. Shut up. I don't need anything else. You're being reckless. You're going to turn around and you're going to be sitting there by yourself. And there's going to be a bunch of women trying to figure out what to do because your natural partner, your natural protector has listened to you. And we get it. We know you don't want us. And so we see any small sign, there's no 2, 3 dates. Hell, some of these women, you can't even get a date because on the phone you're saying crazy shit. It's over. Winter is coming.
Oh,
Thank you for listening this week. Thank you,
yes,
Denise.
yes.
And hope we reach some people and who, besides the people who are going to be angry that I called Hillary Clinton a bitch. Uh, that's probably all they'll take away from this. Uh, but she is. But anyway, yeah, we do need to talk more black men and women, and I hope we do. So anyway, thank you, Denise. Thanks to everybody
Thank
who's
you,
listening.
brother.
And
Appreciate you.
until the next time, you've been listening to The Bridge.
Until the next time.